Those are very big questions. I mean, as you know, I mean, Plato's work is a fictional, or at least semi-fictional, account of a dinner party and symposium in Athens at the end of the 5th century, which was attended by some very well-known Athenians. And the bulk of the work is taken up by a series of speeches put into the mouth in succession of the various guests on the subject of love, and love and desire. And the guests are supposed, each of them, to deliver a speech in praise of love and desire. I think one of the things which naturally appeals to modern readers, of course, is simply this, that this is a brilliant literary work on a subject which is of interest to most people. Now, some parts of the work and some of the speeches which are given are better known than others, and perhaps I could, I would just pick out three very quickly, which I think people would find very appealing today. The first is a speech is put into the mouth of the comic poet Aristophanes, who tells a myth about the origin of desire. And this is one of the very few ancient attempts that we have, but one that still resonates extraordinarily in the modern world, to explain why it is that any one person loves another individual. I mean, in other words, why does any particular person fall in love with any other particular person? Now, Aristophanes tells this in account of a myth that we were once all, in fact, double people. We had 2 heads, 4 legs, 4 arms, and so forth. But we got out of hand. We tried to storm Olympus, and so in order to keep us under control, the gods cut us in half. And so basically we're half of what we used to be. And so what love is a constant search for our other half. Now, of course, in terms of modern genetics, this doesn't work, because this is a story about something that happened one time ago, but it's supposed to explain for each and every one of us today. But but people have found that this is a remarkably resonant story. That the idea that that the search for love, or what love is some kind of completion of yourself. Some kind of filling in a gap in yourself, and so and unsurprisingly, Aristophanes' myth of double people and the origin of desire, I mean, has a huge afterlife, and people have. Writers up until the present day have been inspired by the story. There's even there was some years ago there was a rock opera about a transsexual, and a part of Aristophanes' speech was turned into a rock song in this rock opera. I mean, amazing that Plato has it. So the second speech, Socrates has a great speech which he puts into the mouth, which he claims was told him by a priestess from Mantinea called Diotima. And this is a story essentially about, or a speech essentially about how love can lead to knowledge, and how desire, what you really, of course, should be desiring is knowledge. And so physical desire is, if you like, the first step on our path, which is essentially about an ascent to knowledge. And of course, for Plato, in the end, it's a particular, the ultimate aim, or the ultimate step is a kind of metaphysical knowledge of the forms. And then finally, at the end of the symposium, Alcibiades, the great Athenian politician, comes in drunk and late. And he says that he's going to make a speech, but it won't be a speech in praise of desire. It will be a speech in praise of Socrates himself. he tells a very funny story about how he once tried to seduce Socrates because he thought that, you know, if he allowed Socrates to sleep with him, he would learn everything that he would in return learn everything that Socrates knows. I mean, the point of that is that he has a completely false understanding of the process of learning. That learning is not the master simply telling the pupil. Learning is a joint process of investigation. But the other thing that, one thing that at one point Alcibiades says is that the way Socrates speaks is like Russian dolls. It looks sort of fat and so forth on the outside, but you have to open them up, and the further you go, there are more and more, and when you get to the center, you find there are gods inside. And this is a very resonant, seems to me a very, a very resonant image for the very process of reading and interpreting. I mean, this is, in a sense, this is one of Plato's images for how to read his own works. I mean, it's a matter of opening them up to look to find the gold inside rather than the exterior. And of course, one of the things about Socrates himself, and one of the reasons why in so many of Plato's works there is a stress on the fact that Socrates was very ugly. You know, he was fat, he had a snub nose, you know, he looked a bit like a satyr. But one of the reasons for this emphasis on his physical ugliness is that, of course, that doesn't matter. What matters is what's inside. And so the same goes for Plato's own written works. What matters is what's inside. But with a written work, opening them up, like, you know, taking a Russian doll apart, is a matter of interpretation. So this is one of the most important, it seems to me, images of the whole hermeneutic process that we have from antiquity. There's a great deal more, and as you can doubtless tell, I could go on forever about Plato's Symposium, but I'm very glad you're devoting some time to it.